But the reality is, it's like you said, there's just not this guy that they're like, yeah, he's going to impact our club this year in the lineup. Welcome into Northside Territory, Foul Territory Network's Cubs podcast. I'm Sahadev Sharma with my co-host Patrick Mooney. We're your Cubs beat writers for The Athletic, where we cover the free-falling Cubs. I don't know what to say about this offense. Wind blowing out, 90-degree Father's Day day game, and they score one run. I'm not sure if they hit a ball like that you thought was even going out. Maybe Michael Busch had one. It was just that loss, that series loss, this stretch of games against teams that are hovering around and below 500 has just been not the worst case scenario because they're occasionally winning games, but a pretty bad situation where it's gone from when is this going to turn around to is this a bad team and is this offense just a below average group this season?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up one thing that's been kind of bothering me was just all the talk about like bad luck or like Wisdom's, ball that he hit on Friday afternoon and like how many other ballparks that would have been a home run. And that's just one of the like dumbest things I see in like the baseball discourse. Like when a Bears kicker double doinks it, no one's like, oh, that would have been a make in a dome stadium, or that would have been like a single doink at Lambeau Field. It's like, it's professional sports. These are make or miss leagues. And like Wisdom, hit another ball yesterday, sort of in the gap. I think it was the last out of the game. Like, it was well struck. That Busch ball was, I feel like, kind of a catch at the warning track, and the momentum carried him into the wall, but it wasn't like that close, particularly considering the conditions. Like anyone who was outside yesterday at, Little League games or Father's Day barbecues, or, one of the 39,000 out at Wrigley on Sunday. I mean, it was hot. It was like perfect conditions to hit. And Jameson Taillon gives up a 2-run homer to the Cardinals' number 9 hitter in the 6th inning, and it's game over. I mean, we're like a week out from the halfway point of the season. Like it's not luck. It's kind of, what this team is at this point.
Yeah, at a certain point, we got to stop talking about luck. And I get where you're coming from. I do think there's value in like, if someone's consistently striking the ball well and not getting good luck, it's like I think they'll turn it around. But what happened?
I'll give you Morel. I get the Morel stuff.
And I'd even say this with Morel. I think what's happening now he's hit a real slump, like a real.
Yeah.
He's at a point where he struggled. So it makes the fact that he didn't get any good luck before look even worse. So now it's like you need the good luck at some point to help even out the real slumps. And now it's just a bad situation and nothing's going right. And that's a different discussion. But like this, 111 mile per hour. Yeah. He hit it into the wind at the wrong spot of the ballpark. Like that's the wrong spot to do it. Pages hit it in the right spot to do it in this ballpark. Like baseball is a lot of luck. I mean, it took a little luck to win the World Series. Nobody's pointing out all those things that went the Cubs' way and saying, well, actually, they don't get that World Series because this thing went their way and this thing went their way. No, it's just like you need luck. Okay, you need luck to go your way sometimes. And when it's happening this long for an extended period of time, we need to stop talking about luck, and you need to make things happen. You need to somehow get runs in. Like there are little situations that they're not coming through. If you can't grind through one run just to tie that game up, you're not doing things right. I don't know. I don't know, like, if we're just repeating ourselves here, but
well, that's why I liked your story on Sunday that published. It was a good change of pace. Obviously, the story that I really want to see from you is like the changing wind patterns at Wrigley Field and like a macro analysis of global warming and why the Cubs need a dome or something like that. But failing that larger enterprise story, I enjoyed your 6 names to watch in the Cubs minor league system who could help this year. Like I said, it was a good change of pace. I thought it was appropriately balanced because there was no saviors, and there are some interesting pitching names, but I want to start uh, with the offense because that is what's struggling, and that is what in the last Cubs window they were very good at bringing in all of a sudden, a Schwarber, a Hap, obviously Chris Bryant after he worked on his defense in Iowa. Um, there's probably one or two others that I'm forgetting, but they had this kind of assembly line rolling, and Ian Happ, as a rookie, hitting 24 home runs or whatever it was. I didn't read your piece and think, oh yeah, like he's the guy, but I also didn't get the sense that they're ruling out any of those possibilities yet, right?
No, no. I mean, well, like some people asked why no Alexander Canario. The reason is I put a little, I didn't include him, and I put a little caveat on there, the guys that we haven't seen in the big league
Yes. Yeah.
this season. So that allowed me to sneak in Ethan Roberts and keep out Canario. Like, and frankly, like Canario, I get it. Like people like him, and he gets on tears, but he's very similar to Nelson Velasquez, who I guess who's a below average hitter with a ton of power. Those guys, can help when they're hot, but the Cubs need more than just like a hot bat to help them right now. They need someone they can insert into the lineup, or like it's very specific matchup base that will play semi regularly. I think one guy that you could look at in that situation is Owen Casey. And my concern coming into the season with Owen Casey was the swing and miss, and just like the fact that, okay, if he's gonna swing and miss, like we need to see the in-game power. Like it has to be there much more consistently than it's been. And I like the swing and miss is there. It's not going away. It's who he
Yeah.
is. That's fine. There's this isn't like a 40% strikeout rate. It's actually, it's like it's high. It's like in the upper 20s, but he's starting to hit for power, and the power is coming. It's not this crazy power for the overall season, but if you look at this month, he's slugging. He's really crushing the ball, and he's always had these crazy exit velocities. I think the concern there for the Cubs is player development. They like what they're not going to just stick him in the lineup. I know fans. I get it. I get fans just are like, just put him in the lineup every day. Just let him play. He can play over whoever is struggling. Ian Happ, just sit him at DH, put him at DH, and let him hit every day. I don't think that would be their exact plan. I think that he'd be like a lefty slugger off the bench, matchup based, which is a lot of matchups that he'd get to play in. But still, like I think they believe that would stunt his development. They also believe that he has like real talent to play the outfield. Like they think he's a little underrated there, and they don't want to rush him there because they think just playing time is what gets him to another level defensively. I think he's just like slightly below average now, which is better than he was. He was like the assumption was this guy's going to play first base DH. And like he said it, and he's a very confident guy. I'm not sure how much you talked to him in spring training, but
a little bit,
yeah, he's very confident. He said some things to me that I was like, "Oh, you're gonna be fun."
Wasn't he the one at Cubs convention, maybe the prior year, that said they were doing like their whole prospect panel? And he's like, "Well, we all expect to make to the Hall of Fame." It was something like that. I'm pretty sure.
I think I missed that.
Like,
That's
it was
great.
like on that maybe afternoon panel or something like that, and it was like a question, but it was good. It was I did not use it, and I hope I'm remembering correctly, but it certainly portrayed kind of like
I remember something like that.
Yeah,
now that I think about it,
confident guy.
I mean, the other guy is Matt Shaw, right? And what I
Yeah.
find about Matt Shaw after talking to some people, both within and outside the organization, is people are starting to like the development at third base. The swing is finally getting kind of picked apart, and I don't know, like it's not like this dramatic, like we have like the Cubs have to completely change his swing, but he does have an unorthodox swing. And there's been a lot that was something that when he was drafted was like, it works, so don't overthink it. I think there's a little bit more swing and miss there lately. But I mean, if I go look at the numbers, my guess is it's not like eye popping in the least bit. Not even close to even like Casey levels. It's just okay. So it's just 20%. Here's the positive development, and that's he's more than doubled. It's 3 times actually. Now that I look at it, 3 times his walk rate from last season. It just
Mhm.
completely changed what he's swinging at. That is going to lead to better things. There's like ultimately when you have these contact oriented bats, uh, guys get concerned that as they move up the rung, they know they can hit any like make contact with
Yeah,
any
yeah.
pitch. It's kind of like the
Like
Albert
Nico,
Almora
right?
issue.
Or
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Nico and but like
Albert, yeah, yeah.
to bigger like to what like caused him to like kind of not establish himself as an everyday player was Almora never like he couldn't not swing at those pitches. And it led to low walk rates and weak contact, usually on the ground. You worry about that with any type of player that's coming up through the minors. He's made that adjustment, and it's pretty impressive. There's still a little bit of like they want to see they want to kind of tweak the swing, is my understanding, not dramatically, but just find ways to make sure he's making more contact. I mean, now that I start talking about it, I do want to reach out to a couple other people and get their thoughts on it. But in general, it sounds like they're really excited about the upside. They believe more is there, and after the consensus that I got is like they couldn't believe this guy's a year out. From a year ago, this guy was in college. They're
Okay.
really impressed with the development. Outside shot of getting up here by the end of the year. Still some work they want to do. Those are the two bats that I was kind of that were brought up to me as could come up. But the reality is, it's like you said, there's just not this guy that they're like, yeah, he's going to impact our club this year in the lineup. There's no position player. I mean, I didn't ask about him because the development is so critical. And I'd be very surprised if they rush him up this year. But Moises Ballesteros just got moved up to AAA. He's 20
Hmm.
years old. Like fans are going to look at like OPS or batting average in the Southern League AA. Matt Shaw's numbers don't look great. He's well above average in that league. That league is a mess offensively. Moises Ballesteros is having an insane year as a 20-year-old AA catcher. Just
And
absolutely
why
great.
is that in the Southern League? I feel like we've
Yeah,
heard that before. Is it like
no, like
experimenting with baseballs again, or
no, there isn't. I asked around. I asked some scouts, like, is there something they're trying that's leading to this? And they just said that they don't have a reason. It's just down.
okay,
Like it may just be like that. There's nothing that at least unless I missed it, unless I'm misremembering my conversations. There's no specific reason. There's
okay,
no tacky ball this year. It's
okay,
none of that stuff. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but the Southern League's a mess as far as offense. It's really
okay.
down. Maybe it's just more baseball stuff, like because there's all these rumors about the baseball right now, right? Offense in the big leagues is down too. I just don't want. I want to mention Ballesteros because he was promoted to AAA,
Yeah.
but I don't think I think the catcher development there is a major hurdle to try and rush him. He's not close to ready there. He has a lot of work to do. Whether he can stick there or not, I don't know if I'd be surprised if they suddenly change their minds on how they want to uh, proceed with him. But he's 20 years old and in AAA now. Like I think we'll have to dig in more on him because he's obviously a very intriguing prospect. Um, Outside of that, man, offense isn't coming. It's the guys. It's the guys that they have, right? We keep talking about it. Um, I'm intrigued by these relievers, though. I don't know if they're going to change the. I thought you were there yesterday.
Hmm.
I thought Council talking about like seeing essentially said something about a light at the end of the tunnel for the bullpen. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I think Ethan Roberts could be part of that bucket as well. You have Yency Almonte going out on a minor league rehab assignment this week, or at least he is scheduled to. Around the All-Star break, the Cubs expect to activate Julian Merriweather. Albert Alzolay is still more uncertain. I wouldn't be like, you know, putting his name on any sort of depth chart at the moment, but they signed drawing a blank here. Jorge Lopez
Yes,
from the
yes.
Mets. So like he was scheduled to go to Arizona first. He's had some very good stretches as a major league reliever and was pitching well with the Mets. He just, kind of had a meltdown there and lost
Yeah.
his job. But Ethan Roberts being added to the 40 man, I think our expectation would be he'd probably be up to Wrigley Field sooner rather than later. And I think when you take all those things together, I think you could see what Council's saying. I think he also said in the same breath, like, we've had a lot of injuries. And so that, like, I'm sure he would have liked to have had Ben Brown somewhere in this mix, or like to be able to just pencil in Jordan Wicks every fifth day. That is not happening anytime soon. So it's never going to be look totally clean. But I think Council would also say that this bullpen was not a strength of the team heading into the year, and it has lost a lot of talent. And the more that they can get back, Tyson Miller has been a very pleasant surprise. I asked, whether consider Miller at closer, and I got kind of a convoluted answer. Or we kind of got our wires crossed, but I think the translation I got was, well, then who's going to pitch in the 7th or 8th inning? I think that is his concern.
Yeah.
We need out getters. We need to get 27 outs. So what does it matter if he gets the 21st or 22nd out or 23rd out or 24th out? Whatever it was. So that to me sounded like, okay, probably not going to just make him your closer, but certainly they trust him in really high leverage situations. I also think too, like, they may need him for multiple innings at certain points. This is a puzzle, Sahadev, as Council tells us, solving for wins and solving puzzles and things like that. So, rambling about a bullpen that just basically has no margin for error because the offense can't hit.
Yeah, and I mean, there are some, I can kind of see, just looking at the bullpen, just looking at the names, what Council is talking about. You have Tyson Miller. I get it. Hector Neris is a roller coaster, but he's a veteran who's trusted to get out of those situations, even if he puts himself in them. You will have to watch him constantly, right, the rest of the way, see which direction he's headed. But I think, like, how about Drew Smiley? Quietly,
Yes.
lowering his ERA, becoming a really key part of keeping them in games lately. We could be talking about a bunch of blowouts if it weren't for him of late. I think there are things when you talk about getting back Almonte and Julian Merriweather, that's going to change things. That's going to make you feel a little bit better about the bullpen. Yes, I know they have to score runs. I know that none of this, we can talk about everything else all we want, unless they're hitting home runs, hitting it into the gaps and scoring a ton of runs, it becomes moot. But I think fixing the bullpen isn't as it's not as much of a disaster as it originally felt. I also feel like someone like Drew Smiley it's important to notice him and point it out and remind everyone, like, yeah, I get it. These veterans struggle, they like, or pitchers, relievers in general struggle, that they have moments where they look really rough, where it looks like, is this guy going to help this team at all? And I'm pretty sure Drew Smiley had a few of those moments early on this season where we're like, is this just done for him? Like, is it over? And he can't help this team. Well, he got healthy and he's helping the team. He's a valuable bullpen piece right now, and that's all you can kind of ask for in the role that he's been given. I don't like Ethan Roberts. I don't want he's an incredibly nice guy, very good with the media and fans. He's well known among the fan base because of that, and he's got a nasty sweeper. I would just caution that this guy's like some cure-all for the bullpen in any way. I think he's going to be at the end of the bullpen with Colton Brewer. He's going to fill a role like Porter Hodge did, and if he can get some outs like Porter Hodge did initially, then he'll continue to be used, right? Like, that's all. Like, I mean, what Council said is true. We need out getters. So if he's getting outs, hey, maybe he opens some eyes and he gets some chances. But I worry about the walks. He's not in the zone very often. It's a low 90s fastball that plays up because of like a funky arm action, but it's the sweeper. and he's going to have to face mostly righties. Like if he faces lefties, I don't think he really has a pitch that he feels comfortable getting them out with. This isn't Tyson Miller, who's a former starter, and the Cubs kind of tweaked his told him to use different pitches, and now he's effective against both guys, right? He was looked at when they acquired him, it was like, this guy's just a righty out getter. He's impressed, and he's done much better than expected, especially the way he was acquired. I mean, I just said it. Issue is walks, right? 3 more names: Zach Lee, Hunter Biggie, Michael Arias. You go look at their numbers. The issues are walks. These guys all have stuff. These guys all impress in different ways. Zach Lee doesn't have like huge stuff, but he gets good extension, so his fastball plays up a bit, and it's also a little bit of a cutter. He's a solid. He's a guy that I was told to watch years ago, and he's like a 16th rounder, I want to say. 16th rounder in the 2021 draft. Biggie injuries. Like, I want to say he was drafted by the previous regime, like when McLeod and Dory were running drafts, and he kept getting hurt, but big spike in stuff and just nasty stuff. Again, if he can be around the zone more, this is the type of guy that has the arsenal to be a really good reliever. But he just has to stay healthy, has to not walk guys.
I mean, great reliever name. I mean,
just
like go from there. I did think there are 2 names, because we've talked a lot about kind of prospects and trade deadline and kind of the larger picture here. I thought it was interesting that the corresponding roster move to Ethan Roberts was DFAing Jose Cuas, who was kind of the primary bullpen ad at last year's trade deadline. Clearly did not work out as well as the Cubs had hoped. He had his moments. Right. I know he had kind of that rubber arm, great dude, available, accountable, but just didn't quite have it. Now, having said that, Nelson Velasquez has not performed that great for the Royals. I mean, I think he's like a negative WAR player at this moment. I think both guys were probably what each organization thought, like maybe you catch lightning in a bottle. Like, that's all part of it. Another name that I saw on my timeline was DJ Hers, left-handed pitcher who was traded in the Jamer Candelario deal. Now, you have to make these trades. You have to move your inventory. Like, it's not like DJ Hers would be like starting ahead of Shota Imanaga, but I just thought it was interesting that some of these names pop right as we're ramping up again for the trade deadline. And now DJ Hers, it was 1 start against a bad Marlins team, but 6 shutout innings, 13 strikeouts, no walks. Now, I don't think he's going to, go the rest of his career without issuing a walk. I know that was an issue, but, an athletic lefty who kind of throws from a funky angle, who could have played football at UNC. There's lots there. And we're not saying this to tisk the Cubs or second guess it. This is what you're supposed to do when you're a big market team and playoff spot is within sight. The issue, you always have to keep regenerating that supply of prospects, but it will be interesting to see how some of these guys pan out and, how aggressive Jed is willing to be at this year's trade deadline. I think we're going to get into it later this week. Of do you use this trade deadline to plan ahead and get some of the star power that is clearly missing here? But that is a whole nother episode, a very long discussion. But again, Sahadev, I really enjoyed your piece as a refresher of okay, there still is a lot of time left in this season. The Cubs do have some buttons left to press here. Let's see if they get them right.
Yeah. And, I've seen a lot of talk about the Cuas trade lately too. And it's a wash. Cuas, great dude, didn't turn into what they thought he may. I'm not sure if he has a chance of coming back, clearing waivers and coming back and being just off the 40 man. And hopefully fixing whatever is going on with him. But they tried to trade for a reliever that they thought could get guys out, and it didn't work out. Nelson Velasquez is just not that good of a player this year. Like I know fans think, like, I'm not sure what fans are looking at, but he's like well below average offensively, has one extra base hit this month, and can't play defense. He's a negative WAR player.
I
So
mean, he went off in that 40-game stretch
yeah,
last year, but
great stretch last year.
Yeah.
He was on a heater and he can crush the ball. And when he's locked in, it's kind of like Canario. If you can ride the heater, try and ride it, but it's hard. It's hard sometimes. I mean, Kansas City was a losing team last year and couldn't and just let him play, right? They just let him play. And then I think they tried that to start the year, and he was in a cold stretch. Like, he didn't hit enough. And like, once he hit the cold stretch and they're playing well, they're a competing team. They can't give him that long leash. So it's a tough player to. You have to have a ton of playing time to let him work and see, like, can he really get locked in and make those ups and downs not so extreme. So I mean, these things are going to happen.
That's interesting. That's the challenge of what the Cubs are going to be going through now. Of like, okay, you want to give Owen Casey 600 at bats in the majors, and let him figure it out. Like, does that mean you have to dump a corner outfielder, or like, does that mean Morel's not your DH, or like where? Like, it's like, this is, I think, part of what the stuck feeling around the Cubs, or some of the frustration internally, externally. It's like, yeah, you got some nice players, but like, how are you going to figure out what you have and who you're going to have to displace to do that? And it's not like this nucleus has blown you away to where like, oh, we have to keep going. It's going to be fascinating to watch.
And I mean, I'm not sure if we've said this on the podcast, but like, you do ride through some of the growing pains, right? And it pays off in the end. Council said it Friday, I believe. He said the Cardinals did it last year with Mason Wynn, and it's paying off. The Brewers did it last year with Bryce Terang, and it's paying off. The Cubs are doing it right now, kind of with Pete Crow-Armstrong. We'll see if that pays off, because I had a young reporter come and ask me what I thought about him, and I said, yeah, I like Pete Crow-Armstrong offensively. I think there's major issues right now, but I wouldn't assume this is who he is going forward. He has some things he needs to figure out. I'd like to see him walk more because he's such a threat on the bases. I mean, he almost tied that game up yesterday just by being a pinch runner. Was that yesterday? Whatever day that was when he
it's all kind of blending together. But I know what you're talking about. He's still second. He came on as
so anyways, like, he needs to tweak some things and learn and go through these growing pains, because AAA is kind of pointless for him at the moment. But like, there's value in going through the growing pains, even if it may mean that the Cubs are losing games because they don't have an offensive producer there. But like, they have to figure some of these things out. Like, this is part of player development. I think Cubs fans sometimes think it's all very simple and quick, and Chris Bryant comes up and wins Rookie of the Year and looks like a superstar, and that's how it goes for the really talented rookies or prospects. It's not always how it goes. So you have to kind of suck it up sometimes and say, like, you have to be patient. This is what it's going to be. Right now, it's a mess because of everything else that's going on. Like, I remember, wasn't it last year or in the offseason where Jed basically said, yeah, we'd love, like, in the ideal situation is everyone's performing and there's no pressure on Pete Crow-Armstrong. He's our eighth hitter. And just right. And he can hit whatever he's hitting, but the rest of the group is performing. I mean, they're just kind of letting him be that eighth hitter and hit whatever he's hitting, and also no one's performing. So, well, put a little bit more of a microscope on his struggles.
Progress is not linear, Sahadev. I just made that up right now. I definitely did not hear Jed and Theo say that a million times over the last, decade plus. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if Cubs fans can cling to that, because if progress isn't linear, you have to hope that this extreme, nearly 2-month downswing of performance is just part of a great year as they swing back up and and make a run for it. You can look at the Mets as something positive. The Mets were out of it a week ago, and now they're on a 5-game winning streak. I mean, the Cubs have to face them in 3 days, so maybe that's not a positive, but I'm just saying, like, the most dead teams can come alive. You just don't want to keep falling further and further back. I think like every single time we talk to fans now, it's like another game under 500. I think it was 3 before, now it's 4.
Yeah.
It just slowly, it's like this
Mhm.
slow march. It happened much quicker, I believe, last year, where it went from like, hey, they're hovering around 500. Oh, they're 10 games under. How did that happen?
Yeah.
This is like slow, but like painful, and just, my God, how did it get here? And we'll dig into that more. I think hopefully we'll have Jed Hoyer to talk to at Wrigley in the coming days. Get some more of his thoughts on it seems like we get a week every 2 weeks we're getting updates from him on like what's wrong here. So at least he's there to answer the questions. I'm not sure if he has actual answers as to what's wrong, but not doesn't seem like anyone does at the moment. But Patrick, we'll have at least one guest this week. We have some fun stuff to talk about, like you said, trade deadline talk. How do they improve? Someone that knows Greg Counsell, maybe some Ryan Sandberg talk. We'll see where we go this week. But it is 3 against San Francisco, 3 against the Mets. Like I said, I think that's and then 4 at San Francisco.
Yes.
So we got 10 more games in this stretch of 25. I'm not going to go do the math right now, but they're like 3 games under, I want to say, in the first 15, like something like that. That I said, like a stretch of 25 games where this is where you make your hay. So basically, you want them to go 10-0 over the next 10 to feel good about this stretch. Oh, they did some damage. I don't think that's happening, but the turnaround can happen at any point, or it could just not happen. So we'll leave you with that positivity there. This is Northside Territory, your Cubs podcast on the Foul Territory Network. We're Sahadev Sharma and Patrick Mooney, Cubs beat writers for The Athletic. Make sure to read our work over there at The Athletic. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe, do all that good stuff you do with podcasts. I think we're on YouTube too, not visually, but you can hear us on YouTube if that's how you listen to your podcasts. So make sure to do that. Subscribe on there. We appreciate you all of you for listening. Hopefully we have some better Cubs stuff to talk about in the near future, but for now it's just this. This is what you're stuck with. I apologize. Thanks for listening, all. Take care.